Yo, 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 it's your boy Mike Sign, another one. Been a minute since I actually put some content out in this particular form, but we're right back at you. We're right back at you. The Prototype Sports Agency is alive and well. In the short time since I've actually put some content out like this, we've actually signed a few players. We got some real estate opportunities jumping off. We got some folks in entertainment that we're working with. So, we're doing what we're supposed to do out here. We're making the moves that we're supposed to make. We're gonna be bringing you guys a lot of content moving forward from the channel at Mike Sound Another One. It's gonna be revolving around a lot of different things, primarily sports, but today's take, we are going to look at NIL. So we're going to have a lot of content on this channel focused on NIL. That's going to be the bulk of a lot of the business that the prototype is going to be, aiming to target and focus on, because not only do we want to develop talent early so that we can work with you throughout your college career and put ourselves in the best position to sign you when you draft eligible and work with you throughout your professional career. We obviously that's the way. That's where everything's going. We just had the House settlement on passed this July, actually July 1st. It actually went into effect. And what the House settlement allowed us to do was to go ahead and move forward with revenue sharing. So for those of you guys that are not familiar with how NIL works on the college level, specifically at the college football level, there are typically three things that we look at, especially a player that's coming on board with an athlete agent representation agreement with the prototype. But anybody that's doing it right is typically going to break things down in three areas for NIL. The first area is the collectives. And so every university, or most universities and colleges, formed what we call a collective, which is a fancy word for a booster club. And those collectives, up until this point, have been financing and funding any payments that have gone out to college football players as well as players in other sports. So those deals appear to be coming from the school. They've been negotiated in those conversations, and everything surrounding the deal was done by people associated with the school. But technically, the money couldn't come directly from the school until now. Now they've introduced the model called revenue sharing. And so essentially, it's just what it is. It's basically each university generates X amount of revenue. They decided that there was going to be a $20.5 million cap on the revenue share that the university could share across all sports, and that was going to essentially be paid out to the players directly by the school, as opposed to the collectives paying those student athletes. Now, this isn't replacing the collectives. This is actually just in addition to the collective. So there's reports out there that schools like Texas Tech is going to be spending somewhere in the neighborhood of $55 million for their sports programs in 2025. Um, Texas is rumored to be spending somewhere between 45 million and $50 million. So there's a lot of money that's floating out there. How is it going to realistically be regulated? Because we didn't talk about the third bucket, and the third bucket is the third area of NIL is actually branding and endorsement. So if you go and sign a deal with Nike, if you get a deal with Adidas, if you get a deal with Raising Canes to for them to put you on a billboard, or for them to have you come in and work the drive through and then develop a bunch of content off of that and pay you X amount of dollars. Those are branding and endorsements. They have absolutely nothing to do with the actual university in terms of the collectives and the revenue sharing department, them paying you, as well as your performance on the field. This is your marketability and a company or a brand deciding to, hey, we want them at the forefront of our business to shine a bigger light and help us grow our business. So we'll pay this particular student athlete X amount of dollars for whatever the deal is that we sign with them. That is open game. If a brand wants to shell out $10 million to a student athlete on a deal, then hey, that's where we at. That's what NIL was intended to do. The issue that we have at hand today, this video that I'm getting ready to play for y'all, is essentially centered around the conversation of should there be a cap on those revenue sharing payments and the collective payments, essentially a cap, a salary cap with college football. You know that the NFL has a salary cap, the NBA has a salary cap. Major League Baseball does not have a salary cap. Major League Baseball, they get, like the Yankees have been doing it for years and years, where the rich just, get richer. They continue to have the ability to throw the biggest bag out there in most cases. And so that's what made it really attractive, especially years ago, for a lot of players, for them to just stack the roster up. And so that's what this is all about. I'm going to go ahead and press play on this video because Deion Sanders is essentially talking about why there should be a salary cap in college football.
Currently holding theirs this week. And yesterday, Deion Sanders had a lot to say about the landscape of college football and the way schools pay their players.
I wish it was a cap, like the top of the line player makes this. And if you're not that type of guy, you're not going to make that. That's what the NFL does. So the problem is you got a guy that's not that darn good, but he could go to another school and they give him $500,000. And you can't compete with that. That don't make sense. All you have to do is look at the playoffs and see what those teams spent. And you understand darn near why they're in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. It's kind of hard to compete with somebody who's giving $25, $30 million to a darn freshman class.
So you heard him. Some people think that's contradictory. And the reason they think it's contradictory is because, Deion Prime had his son, Shedeur Sanders, he had Shiloh Sanders, and he also had Travis Hunter, not only on the Colorado roster the last couple of years since he's been in Colorado, but he had him at Jackson State. They were some of the biggest NIL earners across sports, not just in college football. I mean, we're talking about NIL valuations in the millions, upwards of $5, $6, $7 million for both of those guys. I think where Prime is going, I know where Prime is going, is that he tried to stay away from the collective and the revenue sharing model of NIL the first few years, or at least not really exploit it. You had some schools that exploited it right away. They went out and they did a lot of tampering, in which they were tampering with players that had already signed agreements, or they had like some type of handshake agreement way before it was time to sign the actual agreement, and they just threw big money out there. And so this stuff ain't been regulated. It hasn't been regulated at any point up to now. Even now, where there's all these different measures, there's all these conversations centered around what should we do here, what should we do there. It ain't been regulated up until now. And so everything's been changing at the speed of light. What's good today is not good tomorrow. What's legit today is not legit tomorrow. Somebody coming in and just shaking shit up as soon as they get an opportunity to come in and shake it up. So, what he's mainly referring to is, the schools, the big time schools. They got the big time budgets to be able to pay that $20.5 million, and then also come in and pay whatever they can pay from the collective standpoint. It's gonna make it tough on the schools that don't have those type of budgets. And so that's realistically always been the case. You've always had these duffel bags being dropped off to these kids' front door. Or you know how it goes. People have always been paid under the table. Some of them got crucified for it, and it didn't work out very well, but they lost their eligibility, or lost Heisman trophies like Reggie Bush did. But it's at the end of the day, it's pay for play. It's pay for play. It's very similar to the NFL now. And what Prime is saying is that if it's going to be similar to the NFL, there should be a cap. John Calipari, Arkansas head coach, former head coach for Kentucky men's basketball, He thinks the same, is that there should be a cap, but there should also be rules around tampering. I think where Prime supporters come in at, and they got a valid point, is that he did have two of the top earners in terms of NIL on his roster. However, those guys were earning legit NIL deals for name, image, and likeness. Hey, you a bona fide superstar, Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter. We're gonna pay you to represent and showcase Adidas for what it's worth. We're gonna pay you, that watch thing that he was doing, holding the watch up, celebration, the sunglasses with Prime, all of that type of stuff. That stuff where these companies are putting your name, your image, your likeness on something. They're gonna pay you some money, and then they're gonna go out and they're gonna make some big bucks as well. So if they want to give him $5, $10 million, or get those guys $5, $10 million, or whatever those deals are worth, then that's fair game. Step your game up, get your marketability up, get your image up, go out there, create content, make yourself marketable. And for the agents that's representing the guys, and the companies and parents that's working with the guys that can't do it themselves, go out there and help them find a way to boost their image, to boost their marketability, and put them in a scenario where they can earn or take advantage of opportunities out there for NIL. That's what the prototype is going to be. 97% of the other athletes out there outside of the top 2 to 3% are not seeing those deals. What we focused on are, I wouldn't necessarily call it the low hanging fruit, but everything else in between. So we talked about that Raising Cane's opportunity, Freddie's custard burger, something where we might be able to help one of our clients go out and have a sponsored social media post that they get paid $1,000 for, $2,000 to go out and make 2 videos or two posts on Instagram. So those are the things that we want to stack up cumulatively, and we believe that over time, the volume of athletes that we'll be able to bring on board, the branding that we will be able to help these guys with collectively across the board with their marketability and their image, their branding, will help them out tremendously in those areas. But I do agree that at some point with the collectives and the revenue sharing, that we need to have some type of salary cap on things. I'm all for players getting paid. Hell, I am an agent. I'm an agent that my business is going to depend on earning a commission on the players and the clients that I represent. But I want to do it right. I want to earn. I don't want anything given to me, number one. But number two, I want to make sure that we do things the right way, that we got parity across the board, that college football as a sport stays healthy. It's not healthy for college football for this thing to get lopsided, for the Ohio States, the Michigans, and all the other big boys out there that got these budgets that could completely cause other programs with smaller budgets to collapse because they just can't simply compete. So let's make it as fair as possible. I think that anything is plenty, man. So what are we talking about? Prior to 4 years ago, prior to July 2021, legally you were not sitting down with a college or a university and signing an athletic scholarship agreement that says that we're gonna pay you $300,000 and we're gonna provide you a Hellcat along with it. That just wasn't happening, not legally. So at the end of the day, I think that there's enough money to go around to make sure that we got parity across the board, that we're able to take care of the entire roster, and then that still allows the other schools across the board to be competitive with that as well. I'm all for it. I want everybody to get as much money as possible to eat, to really thrive in things. But what I don't want is for things to go backwards. I don't want that there to be too many people to be entitled to not feel like they've actually worked for this, to feel like that this is automatic, and we create these issues where now agents are being looked at the bad guys as the bad guys because all we trying to do is follow up with market, follow up with the market. I want my guys to get what's in line with the market. So if this last guy got $700,000 on an NIL deal, on a collective or revenue sharing deal, and my guy is, considered just as good of a player, brings just as much to the table, if not more, than that particular guy that got the 700,000, then we want 700,000 or more. But we don't want to do it at the expense that these other players and other programs are going to suffer, and it's going to be bad for the game overall. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments, and so just chime in. Let me know what y'all think. If you hadn't already hit that like and subscribe button for the channel in general, go ahead and do that so we can get you subscribed up. We can make sure that you stay up to speed, get the notifications on all the latest content that's coming out. Prototype's going to be doing some big things this year. Mike's on another one overall is going to be huge across the board. We bringing it. We're not taking a back seat. It's time to really go ahead and put boots on the ground and really get after it. So that's all I got for y'all today. Stay tuned. We'll see y'all next time. Peace.